Here's more with Ilya Ponomarev, a former member of Russia's State Duma, now living in exile in Ukraine. A few weeks ago, the Wagner Group had that sort of attempted coup. We had that sort of march towards Moscow. Is Putin worried about his own security, or has he locked up everybody around him so much that he's not worried?
No, from one side, I think that Putin is pretty much paranoid about his security. As all dictators, he is thinking about the potential treasons that may happen around him. He is always tossing his surrounding, his security. He is provoking conflicts within his inner circle. So he does all this. In terms of particular Wagner and Yevgeny Prigozhin, who is the leader of the Wagner Group, I'm certain that Putin knew about this mutiny in advance. And Prigozhin, for him, is one of the most trusted men. And I think that he remains as such.
You mean Prigozhin, he's still a favored person with Putin after leading an attempted coup?
I wouldn't say that he's a favorite person, but I think that he's still a trusted person.
So he doesn't have a target on his back? He's not going to get...
I don't think so.
You don't think Putin's going to kill him?
I don't think so. I think that actually Prigozhin would get several important assignments in future if he didn't get one already. And right now that they're deploying forces in Belarus could be very much a threat for Lithuania and Poland, which may happen in the near future.
Well, I've been to Ukraine and Poland region 4 times since the war broke out in February of 2022. And when I've been in Poland, the Polish people have expressed to me, obviously it's not scientific, but a lot of them, including some who high up in the government, that they actually fear that Putin has his designs on Poland. That it's not just Ukraine. Is that a legitimate fear?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, he would not make like a frontal attack when the tank columns would invade and go forward. So at least while Ukraine exists, Ukraine protects all of the Western Bloc, all of NATO countries from Russia's direct invasion. But a provocation like the one that can be done with the Wagner troops, they have 20,000 of trained men. And they have a course. There is a region of Kaliningrad which they separate from Russia, and it's been separated by a stripe of land called Suwalki Corridor, which connects Poland and Lithuania. And to break into this corridor, to establish a land link, that's a possibility, and that he would say, well, Wagner is not Russian army. They're just like some private individuals who volunteered to do something great for Mother Russia. And then some members of NATO may say, oh, they were not the state actors. That's why Lithuanians and Poles are calling for the Article 5. And then where is the NATO?
Oh, you have a cable news or an internet news service. Mm-hmm. And of course, inside Russia, RT, Russian, for instance, the Russian television, it's all state-run. Mm-hmm. You're broadcasting from inside Ukraine. Are you finding that your message is getting into Russia and that you're having any impact on the Russian people? Because as we see it on the outside, is that the Russian people, at least they're not up in arms about the war, in a big way.
Obviously, our signal is weak in this regard. So our monthly audience is about 8 million people, and there are 145 million Russians out there. So we are seeking the ways how to expand the reach. And we are talking with the same Poland, for example, right now, so to get onto the satellite, because Ukrainians, for many reasons, cannot do this. They do support us otherwise, but they cannot enrich our broadcast. But it's still, it's pretty slow. And in general, I think that the West is very reluctant to have a coherent strategy on what is supposed to happen. There is a lot of aid that goes into Ukraine, and we are very thankful that this aid exists. But without having a strategy how the war would end, you will never be able to win. And that's something that we are discussing here in this town all the time. But this is something which this administration is very shy of admitting.
The sanctions work? I mean, are the sanctions having an impact on Russia?
No, obviously they do work.
Well, he's still fighting the war, though. I mean, it can't work that much. I mean,
No, the question is that Russian economy has a huge financial cushion. Putin was saving a lot of cash, and so he's not that much dependent on the inflows of money at the moment. And still, Russia is selling a lot of oil and gas that go into China, that go into India, and that helps him to sustain the economy and the military operations. What is most important are the personal sanctions. And personal sanctions, which have immediate impact on particular nasty individuals, which are helping Putin to run his country. It's just that they would be fully efficient only when there is a way in and the way out. If you are not providing a person the way how he can switch sides and start doing something for the victory of Ukraine and the Western coalition and defeat of Putin's regime, then he is getting stuck with Putin, and that decreases efficiency of the sanctions.
what do you think Putin thinks about President Biden?
I think that he thinks that he is weak.
Weak?
No, I think that he thinks that it's a classical political person which has all his career in official ranks of the government, and that he is following a certain rules of engagement that are used in the bureaucracy, and that prevents him to go all the way. I think that Putin is always afraid of charismatic people, of people who can make bold and unexpected decisions. And that's why when President Trump was in office, Putin was way more respectful towards United States position, because he thinks that they more or less at peer. Putin also don't like Zelensky, and he is not respecting Zelensky, but he's afraid of Zelensky also for the same thing, because Zelensky is a type of personality who can make bold moves, and Putin is very uneasy next to such people.
I neglected to welcome you to the United States, but as a follow-up, welcome to the United States, but as a follow-up, why are you here?
I am here because we have Congress of People's Deputies after the invasion started, so now Russians start to self-organize, and we think it's not American cause to defeat Putin, it's us, Russian cause to defeat Putin. And we established a shadow Russian parliament, which right now has 93 former members of Russian parliaments of all levels, and we seek establishment of official relationship with different parliaments of the world. We have now good relationship with Eastern European governments and legislative bodies. But again, in the United States, the process is way slower. The people are way more cautious. So we are negotiating, explaining, convincing, and showing the way how we can end this war.
Sir, thank you very much for joining me. Good luck.
Thanks for having me.